Grant Udinski once lived in his car to keep his coaching dream alive. Now, he might be the key to reshaping the Cleveland Browns. The 30-year-old coordinator has gone from personal struggle to professional breakthrough, and his interview with the Browns has ignited a wave of support that's hard to ignore. Fans aren't just rooting for him. They're demanding his hire. But what makes this story even more compelling is a potential ripple effect. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. Udinski's arrival could be the catalyst that brings Shedeur Sanders in the fold, offering both men a chance to build something from the ground up. This isn't just a feel-good story, it's a high-stakes moment. The Browns have a chance to rewrite their narrative by aligning with leaders who reflect grit, vision, and modern football intelligence. Udinski's resilience and relatability could be exactly what Shedeur Sanders needs in a first NFL coach, someone who's not just scheming for success, but who's lived to fight for it. If Cleveland makes the right call here, they're not just hiring a coach, they're setting a tone for what kind of team they want to become. Something big is happening in Cleveland, and for once, it's not another front office mess or a quarterback carousel spinning out of control. No, this time it feels intentional, strategic, and at the center of it all, two names, Grant Udinski and Shedeur Sanders. Let's get straight to it. The Browns have officially interviewed Grant Udinski, the 30-year-old offensive coordinator from the Jacksonville Jaguars, for their head coaching vacancy. On paper, that might look like just another move in the off-season shuffle. But when you dig into it, and clearly the internet has, this one feels different. It feels like the Browns are sending a message, whether they want to admit it or not. Because for a team that's been dragging the way to one of the league's worst offenses, this kind of interview isn't just about filling a job. It's about overhauling an identity. And it just so happens to align very neatly with a rising quarterback prospect named Shedeur Sanders, who many believe could be the future face of a franchise, maybe this franchise. Now, let's not overreach. There's no official confirmation that the Browns are actively pursuing Sanders. No announcements, no leaks that name him directly. But let's not pretend NFL teams don't play chess with their decisions. And right now, every piece on the Browns' board is moving toward one direction, building something that could actually support a player like Shedeur Sanders. And that's why this coaching interview is going viral. Grant Udinski is not your typical head coaching candidate. He's not a retread. He's not a former Super Bowl champion on the back nine of his career. He's not someone whose last successful offense was in a different decade. He's young, 30 years old. He's got 8 years of coaching experience and a track record working in systems that mirror where the league is heading. Not where it's been. But what's really caught people's attention is his story. According to reports, he lived in his car while chasing his coaching dreams. That kind of background doesn't just add drama. It adds credibility. This is a guy who understands struggle, who's built himself up without shortcuts, and who now finds himself sitting in a pivotal NFL interview with one of the most quarterback-needy teams in the league. And the fan reaction? Unmistakable. It's not a polite nod of approval. It's a demand. Don't let him leave. Hire him now. He's the one. People aren't just intrigued, they're invested, because they know what this could mean. It's not just about fixing last year's offense, which, let's be real, was an unwatchable mess. It's about laying the groundwork for the next generation of football in Cleveland, one that finally ditches the outdated systems, the safe hires, and the lifeless schemes. One that opens the door to a quarterback like Shedeur Sanders. And it's no coincidence that all of this buzz is happening now. The Browns have struggled for years to find consistency on offense. There have been flashes, brief, hopeful moments, but no lasting structure. That's what makes this so important. Because by considering someone like Udinski, they're signaling a complete shift in philosophy. They're not just looking for someone to manage the current chaos. They're trying to transform it. And that kind of transformation is exactly what a quarterback like Sanders would need to succeed. If you followed Shedeur's rise, you know he's not a plug-and-play type. He's strategic, highly aware of what system he fits into, and very much in control of his development. He's not looking to be drafted and thrown to the wolves. He's looking for a situation that's built to elevate him, a coaching staff that knows how to use a modern quarterback, A front office that prioritizes growth, not just PR. And right now, that's what the Browns are starting to look like. Pairing a young quarterback with a young head coach isn't just trendy, it's effective. You get mutual development, trust, and alignment. You get years to build something together. You get the kind of partnership that defines a new era for a franchise. And for the Browns, who've been stuck in the past longer than most teams care to admit, that's the kind of opportunity they can't afford to waste. Because let's be honest, this franchise has been known for instability, not innovation. But now, with moves like this, it's looking like they're finally ready to be taken seriously. That's why fans are reacting the way they are. They're not just responding to a coaching candidate. They're responding to a possibility. A future where the Browns aren't just trying to survive in a competitive AFC. They're trying to compete in it. A future where they're not chasing after quarterbacks that don't fit their system. They're building a system for a quarterback who could define the next decade. And even though nothing is set in stone, the writing is on the wall. Every decision the Browns make in this coaching search is being interpreted as part of a bigger plan. Because when you have a head coaching vacancy and a looming quarterback decision, those two tracks don't run parallel, they intersect. That's the nature of NFL team building today. You don't just draft a quarterback and hope for the best. You create an environment where that quarterback can grow, where his coach understands him, where the system suits him, and where the vision is shared. And if that's what Cleveland is doing here, then they're doing it right. Because you don't get many chances like this. You don't often find yourself in a position to hire a progressive, relatable coach and draft a highly touted quarterback with complementary styles. That kind of alignment is rare. And if the Browns recognize it, if they capitalize on it, they could finally break out of the cycle they've been stuck in for years. That's the real reason this story is going viral. Not because it's confirmed, not because it's guaranteed, but because it finally feels plausible. The right coach, the right quarterback, the right time. And even if it's not Shedeur Sanders, let's say the Browns go another direction in the draft, the ripple effect of hiring someone like Udinski still matters. Because it shows a commitment to the modern game. It shows players, agents, and fans that Cleveland isn't content to stay stuck in neutral. They're ready to accelerate. And when you've got a coach who's earned his way up from nothing, who's young enough to relate but experienced enough to lead, who's backed by a fan base ready to fight for him before he's even signed the deal, you don't let that moment pass. You double down. Because if the Browns are serious, and right now it looks like they are, this is their moment to turn speculation into strategy and to turn a franchise in limbo into a real contender. So what happens next? Does the front office make the bold move and hire Udinski? Do they keep laying the foundation for a player like Shedeur Sanders? Or is this just another flicker of potential that fades into the same old Browns narrative? Whatever happens, one thing is clear. People are paying attention. And if you've been waiting for Browns to finally take a step forward, this might be the most important offseason in years. Drop a comment. Do you think this is all lining up for Shedeur to land in Cleveland? Should the Browns take the leap with Udinski? And what kind of QB coach duo do you think would thrive in today's NFL? Like the video if you're watching the situation unfold with equal parts excitement and disbelief. And make sure you're subscribed because the story is just heating up and you're not going to want to miss what comes next. The buzz isn't dying down. In fact, it's only getting louder. Shedeur Sanders' name is everywhere right now. Not because he made some big announcement, not because a team drafted him, but because of one interview, the Cleveland Browns taking a serious look at Grant Udinski. And that's what's wild about this situation. We're not even at the draft. Shedeur hasn't put on a Browns jersey. Udinski hasn't been hired. But fans, analysts, and insiders can all feel it. Something is shifting in Cleveland. And it's not the kind of noise we've come to expect from a franchise known more for dysfunction than direction. This is different. This is strategic. And you better believe Shedeur and everyone around him is paying close attention. Because when a team that's been stuck at the bottom starts making moves that actually make sense, people notice. The Browns haven't just been bad, they've been lost. One of the worst offenses in the NFL year after year. Coaches who didn't adapt. Playbooks that couldn't evolve. Quarterback development that felt more like trial and error than actual planning. That's been the story. So when Grant Udinski, a 30-year-old offensive coordinator from Jacksonville with a modern mindset and an incredible story, walks in for an interview, and fans immediately start chanting, "Hire him," before he even walks out, you know something's changed. You can feel the energy flipping. Because people are tired of safe hires. They're tired of waiting for someone else to take a risk first. And Udinski represents everything this team hasn't been. Forward-thinking, adaptable, and willing to build something new instead of clinging to what hasn't worked. Let's not forget what this guy's been through. Lived in his car, hustled through low-level gigs, climbed a ladder with no guarantees. That's not a resume you fake. That's resilience. That's someone who knows how to lead from experience, not entitlement. And when you take that story and put it next to a quarterback like Shedeur Sanders, the connection almost writes itself. Because Sanders isn't some random name being tossed around by bored fans. He's one of the most compelling quarterback prospects on the board. Smart, poised, confident, and vocal about wanting to be in a system that allows him to develop, not just survive. He's made it clear. He's not walking into a bad situation just for the sake of being in the NFL. He wants to be in the right situation. And if you're watching the Browns right now, it's starting to look like they're finally trying to create that kind of environment. This isn't about hype. It's about infrastructure. And you don't build infrastructure with someone stuck in 2003. You build it with someone who understands the game in 2026. That's Udinski. That's the future. That's what makes all of this matter. Because you can't just draft a quarterback like Shedeur Sanders and hope he figures it out. That's the old Browns playbook. Draft a guy, get him a coach who doesn't understand him, and wonder why it all falls apart. That's over. That model is broken. This is how you actually prepare to succeed. Hiring a young, progressive coach who gets today's NFL doesn't guarantee anything, but it gives you a shot. It gives your quarterback a system he can thrive in, and it gives your fans a reason to believe something real is being built. That's why this story exploded. Not because the Browns said something dramatic, but because they finally started doing something that feels aligned with long-term success. And yes, every move is under the microscope now, because everyone wants to know, is this real? Is this actually a franchise pivoting from being stuck in the past to building for future? And if it is, what's the end game here? Because pairing Shedeur Sanders with Grant Udinski wouldn't just be exciting. It would be logical, necessary. It would be the kind of pairing that's built to last, not just entertain. Think about it. A rookie quarterback coming into the league with all eyes on him. A young, hungry coach determined to prove himself. Both growing at the same time. Both invested in making it work. That's not chaos. That's chemistry. And in a league that moves fast, where windows close before you even realize they were open, chemistry is everything. You can draft all the talent in the world, but if you don't have alignment between your quarterback and your coach, it doesn't matter. Look around the league. The successful teams, they're not improvising. They're building systems around their QBs, not forcing QBs to fit into some outdated system built for someone else. If Cleveland is actually doing that, if they're laying this groundwork now before the draft, before free agency, before the pressure hits, then they're not just reacting, they're planning. And that's what Shedeur Sanders needs to see, because he's not desperate. He has options. He knows what a bad situation looks like, and he's not going to let a team throw him into one and hope for the best. He needs a partner. He needs a coach who understands that development is a two-way street. And Grant Udinski, he checks that box. Not just because he's young, not just because he knows modern football, but because he's already lived the underdog story. That kind of coach gets a grind. And that kind of coach doesn't let his quarterback fail alone. So here's where we are. No official moves have been made. No guarantees. But the signs are clear. The Browns are done trying to duct tape their offense together with outdated ideas and coaching hires that look better on paper than they do on the sideline. They're aiming for something real. And whether a coincidence or carefully calculated, this coaching interview feels like it's about more than just a vacancy. It's about a vision that includes a coach who can adapt, a quarterback who can lead, and a front office that's finally ready to stop chasing fixes and start building foundations. The Browns aren't there yet, but for the first time in a long time, it feels like they're moving in the right direction. And if they follow through, If they hire Udinski and go after Shedeur Sanders with a clear plan, that's the start of something. Not a gimmick, not a headline, a franchise identity. And if you watch this team over the years, you know exactly how rare that is. So don't take your eyes off the story, because the moves happening now are going to find the next chapter of Browns football, maybe even the next decade. And now we're here, at the moment where speculation becomes strategy and all the little moves start to paint a much bigger picture. Let's be absolutely clear. The Cleveland Browns haven't drafted Shedeur Sanders. Grant Udinski hasn't been officially named head coach. But if you're paying attention, really paying attention, it's impossible not to see the setup happening in real time. Because when a team like the Browns, with a history of chasing names instead of building systems, suddenly pivots toward innovation and modern coaching dynamics, that's not just hiring for the sake of hiring. That's positioning. That's chess. And that's what makes this story so magnetic. This isn't about headline value or off-season filler. This is about a franchise long defined by inconsistency, finally sending signals that they're done making panic moves and are instead laying the kind of foundation that attracts, not repels, elite talent. And that talent? Right now, all arrows are pointing to Shedeur Sanders. The connection isn't forced. It's functional. It makes sense. The Browns need a quarterback. A real one, not another placeholder. Not another late-round swing or recycle veteran. They need someone who can not only play at a high level but lead, elevate, and evolve. Shedeur Sanders fits that mold. He's been the talk of the college football world. His poise, his mechanics, his football IQ, they're all NFL ready. But what really makes Shedeur different is how intentional he is about his career. He doesn't just want to make the league. He wants to thrive in it. And to do that, he knows the system has to match the talent. He needs a coach who speaks his language, not someone trying to retrofit him into outdated schemes. Which brings us, again, back to Grant Udinski. What makes this coaching interview so explosive isn't just the optics, it's the alignment. Udinski is young, yes, but he's also respected. He's earned his reputation as an innovator, someone who understands the speed and complexity of today's NFL offenses. He's not guessing. He's not experimenting with someone else's blueprint. He's building systems for this generation of quarterbacks. And when a franchise like Cleveland brings in someone like that, after years of cycling through older, rigid, ineffective hires, people notice, especially quarterbacks watching from the sidelines. Because at that level, players don't just look at rosters. They look at structure, culture, leadership, development. Who's in the building matters just as much as who's on the field. And if you're Shedeur Sanders and you've got options and you've been vocal about your need for the right fit, and you see the Browns take a serious swing at someone like Udinski, that matters. It's not a coincidence. It's a signal. And it's one the fans have caught on to immediately. You've seen the reactions. You've heard the chatter. Browns fans haven't been this united on anything in a long time. Don't let him leave. He's the future. Finally, we're doing something smart. That's not just hype. That's relief. That's what it sounds like when a fan base that's been gaslit by bad football starts to feel like something is actually changing. And again, nothing's been confirmed. No contracts have been signed. But the momentum? It's there. The vibe? Completely different. Because this isn't about throwing money at a big name or making noise just to dominate headlines for 48 hours. This is about laying the groundwork for something sustainable, something that lasts. And for the Browns, that kind of planning has been in short supply. For years, this franchise has chased short-term solutions. They've drafted quarterbacks without building a staff around them. They've hired coaches without thinking about quarterback development. It's been disconnected, chaotic, and ineffective. But the Grant Udinski interview, that's a connected move. That's a piece that fits into a bigger puzzle. And if the Browns keep building on that, if this is just a first domino in a larger plan to bring in Shedeur Sanders or someone like him and actually support their development from day one, then you're looking at a real shift in Cleveland, a cultural shift, a philosophical shift, one that could finally put an end to the cycle of self-sabotage that's defined the team for decades. And if they don't follow through, if they backtrack, if they go safe, stale, or old school with a hire, then all of this momentum dies. The spark fizzles, and it's back to square one. That's why this moment is so important. This isn't just a hire, it's a direction, and the Browns have to decide which future they're choosing. Because whether or not they're ready to say it out loud, this coaching decision is directly tied to the quarterback decision that's coming. It's not a separate issue. It's the same issue. You don't bring in someone like Udinski unless you're preparing to hand him a young quarterback and give them time to grow together. And if that young quarterback is Shedeur Sanders, then this becomes one of the most compelling rebuilds in the league. Think about what that would mean. A team known for dysfunction finally building around cohesion. A quarterback who knows what he needs paired with a coach who's willing to adapt his system to the player, not the other way around. A franchise finally putting development ahead of desperation. That's not just good football. It's smart business. It's what fans have been begging for, what analysts have been screaming about, and what the team has failed to execute for way too long. Now they have the chance to change that. Right here, right now. And all of it starts with this coaching hire. Because once you get that right, everything else becomes possible. The culture, the quarterback, the identity, all of it flows from that decision. And the clock is ticking. Other teams are making moves. Other franchises are preparing to make aggressive plays in the draft. The AFC isn't waiting around for Cleveland to figure it out. So if the Browns really believe that Grant Udinski is the future, if they really believe that a coach like him could build a kind of offense that elevates a quarterback like Shedeur Sanders, then the decision has already been made. They just need to pull the trigger. And if they do, watch how fast everything changes. The perception, the potential, the expectations. Cleveland goes from a team people laugh at to a team people watch. Because you don't just stumble into a modern quarterback-coach duo that works. You have to plan for it. You have to take the risk. You have to trust the process. And more importantly, trust the people. And if the Browns do that, if they give Udinski the reins and back him with a quarterback like Shedeur, that's the moment the narrative shifts. That's the moment Cleveland stops chasing the league and starts defining its own path forward. So now the question is, do they see it? Do they recognize the opportunity sitting right in front of them? Because if they do, they're not just setting up for a better season. They're setting up for a new era. Drop your thoughts below. Should the Browns commit to Udinski? Do you think this all leads to Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland? What would it mean for the franchise to finally have both the coach and the quarterback aligned? Smash that like button if you're watching the story unfold with cautious optimism, and make sure you're subscribed. Because whatever happens next is going to define not just the Browns' future, but maybe the next generation of football in Cleveland. And this time, it might actually be the real thing.